This program was pre-recorded.
You've entered the Fletch Nation with Roy Fletcher, political analyst and socio-political prophet, and Kevin Gallagher, TV and podcast host and opinionated jackhole. So settle in, grab a beverage. It's time to talk some politics. It's Fletch Nation. Now here are the boys.
Well, it would be one boy today. That would be me, Kevin's ill. And when Kevin's ill, I have to do it. When I'm ill, Kevin don't do the show at all. So that's a fair trade, since my name's on it. It's Wednesday, I think March 29th, and it's been one hell of a week in American culture and politics, and one hell of a week around the world. But I'll begin before we go to Nashville, which clearly people are talking about and focused on because of such an extraordinary tragedy. I wanted to preference our discussion of Nashville with a poll that came out over the weekend in the Wall Street Journal. It was done for an affiliate of University of Chicago, by an affiliate of University of Chicago, and the lead pollster on it was Bill McInturf, which I had a number of long years of experience with. Bill is a terrific pollster, so these numbers I happen to have faith in, as opposed to other published polls sometimes that I have no faith in. But it gives you a real idea about things in America in a way that a lot of people may not have seen before or may not have considered before, but it's something that I have been tracking with other pollsters that I work with over the last couple of years, and it is fundamentally this enormous change that is going on in American society. So let me read you some numbers first. In terms of, we're going to compare this to 1998 when these questions were, and they've been asked historically since 1998 for about the last 25 years about what has happened to America. 38% of the respondents in the poll said that patriotism was very important to them. That sounds like a lot, maybe if you're not really thinking about it. But in 1998, that number was 70%, was very important to them. Patriotism was very important to them. Religion. In 1968, 62% of the American public said religion, their faith, was very important to them. Today, that number is 39%. Having children. In 1998, 59% of the American public said that was very important to them. Today, it's cut in half, 30%. Community involvement. In 1998, it was 62% said that it was very important to them. Today, it's 27%, an enormous drop. And in 1998, 31% said making money was very important to them. Today, it's 43%. So I think that you can see that on the indices that tell you what kind of consensus you have in a country, in the United States, the consensus has essentially come unglued, fallen apart. At least the consensus around what was normally considered to be traditional American values. I don't want to say anything other than traditional American values, not traditional values, but traditional American values. Patriotism to your country, faith in God, or faith in your religion, the notion of raising a family, having children, raising children, socializing children, in being involved in your community. It used to be that political scientists call those mitigating influences. They were sort of things in a community that sort of kept things together, because the Kiwanis Club or the PTA or whatever the case may be. And all of those things have literally declined by 50 to 80% over the last 25 years. And so it tells you that America is becoming very, 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 I don't want to say in decline, but very, very, very divided. Let me give you some other numbers. The disagreements among Democrats and Republicans on patriotism are enormous. Democrats in the 25 to 30 range find patriotism to be very important, whereas Republicans find it to be in the 65 to 70% range. The same on religion, a little bit less so. The same on families, having children. The same on community involvement. All of that is a distinct difference, a total difference between Democrats and Republicans. And so consequently, as you can see, that what's happened in the United States is that partisanship has an enormous impact on how you view these basic traditional American values and on things that keep a society together. That's why I say that the United States is in many ways permanently divided. It appears to be that way, at least now, that there is this growing and continued, there is a continuing and growing separation between the way that the Republicans or conservatives or however, and the Democrats or whatever view this country. And I believe that it's because of this partisanship that what we have here is two distinctly different worldviews. You have the traditionalist, nationalist, believe in a nation state, the United States group, and you have the one world that view the world as one single place, that do not believe in nation states and embrace all forms of tolerance as it relates to alternate lifestyles, et cetera, et cetera. And this division is I think best summed up by President Lincoln when he faced a division of his own, which was at the time the Civil War, the issue of race, when he said that a house divided against itself cannot stand. And what we have here is a house, a country that is divided against itself. And the question is whether or not we're going to stand, and what do we have to do to build a consensus. And it's not surprising that given these numbers as it relates to these things, that we see the complete erosion of trust in institutions in America, from the churches to government to criminal justice, on and on and on. And when we come back, I want to finish that thought, and then I want to take us to talk about Nashville. We'll be right back. Stick with us. Let us go make some money.
Got termites? Get Premier Pest. PremierPestServices.com.
Hi, I am Dr. Farrell Frugier Jr., and I am a general dentist at Frugier Family Dentistry. I was born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I went to Catholic High School, LSU, and LSU School of Dentistry in New Orleans, where I received my DDS degree in 1986. I always have and will continue to be committed to continuing my education, to invest in technology which makes the diagnosis and delivery of dentistry more thorough, more comfortable, and more aesthetically pleasing. In our practice, we are here to serve the patients. We want to improve their quality of life and to develop relationships with our patients. In dentistry, we have a chance to impact lives on a daily basis. not just by doing dentistry, but by getting to know them and being a part of their life. We also believe in giving back to our community. So every year, we give back to the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank, Toys for Tots, and Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center. Please stop by and visit our office. We would love to take care of you and your family.
Every great story starts with the rush of thrilling gaming action. Handcrafted flavors, eager to please. Getaways for some well-deserved me time. And rewards worth bragging about. If it's a story worth telling, it starts at La Berge Baton Rouge. What's your story?
You could be driving a...
Now's the time to save on new Accords during Happy Honda Days at Team Honda of Acadiana. Get our lowest prices and biggest savings on our largest selection of Accords this year. Hurry in and save during Happy Honda Days at Team Honda of Acadiana, I-49 just south of Opelousas.
Visit Treads & Care Tire Company's new location on Hooper Road in Central. Locally owned for over 50 years, Treads & Care is known for quality automotive repair and top-notch customer service.
I'd like to invite you to come out and see us at our new location in Central.
No one can stop me when I taste the feeling. Nothing could ever bring me down. Nothing could ever bring me down. Taste the feeling.
Caught spiders. Premier Pest Services.
Welcome back. Roy Fletcher, my sidekick Kevin Gallagher, is off today because he's ill today. But he called me this morning. He sounded ill. We had old school barbecue on Carsey Boulevard in Baton Rouge. Ever need some good barbecue, come over here and get it. It's real. It's made right here. It's the real thing. We were talking about the poll that ran this past weekend in the Wall Street Journal, and of course I had to take a break to make some money. Well, the good news about that is that money, it seems to be on the rise as an important concern of the American public, while all of these other values that we have in this country are going down. And I said this undermines this is what's happened is that we have lost trust in institutions in this country. It has destroyed a consensus that we've had in this country. This is very reflective of that loss of consensus. And it affects all kinds of institutions. For example, the military. You can see that the enrollment into the enlistment rates into the military are enormously down. Well, patriotism is very low right now. So all of that together suggests a decline, and if not a decline, a division. But as Lincoln said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. So that is really, we're talking about decline. In fact, I'll tell you this, the president of El Salvador had the following to say in the last few days. The president of El Salvador said this. He said, the most powerful country in the world is falling so fast that it makes you rethink what are the real reasons. Something so big and powerful cannot be destroyed so quickly unless the enemy comes from within. That's the president of El Salvador ringing the alarm bell for the United States, for the public in the United States. It is being seen throughout the world that the United States is having an enormous amount of difficulty, which all of that leads us to what transpired, the tragedy that transpired this past weekend, and in Nashville, Tennessee, and as I appreciated, or on Monday, whenever it was, and as I appreciated, at least one of those people that died there, and I think it might have been the principal, Catherine Kuntz, I believe, at that school, had a connection to Baton Rouge. One of them went to University High School, or at least, and maybe even attended LSU for a couple of years before they transferred to Vanderbilt, and so the tragedy is real and the pain is great. But immediately, the whole thing got defined in the context of what? Partisanship. In the context of purely partisanship and purely politics. And it was very, very disturbing to see that. But it is what it is. So let's look at the contours of what went down. Those people that promoted the passage and the implementation of hate crimes in the United States suddenly had to change their positions as it related to Nashville. Because if there was a clear textbook case of a hate crime, this was a clear textbook case of a hate crime. It was hatred for the church, the school, the Christian environment, and it was an attack, and we were waiting to see the manifesto that the deranged person who did this wrote. But and when we do, we will find out more about the intent or the desire to do what she did. But the fact is that this was a textbook case of a hate crime. On the other hand, so therefore, that group of people who had promoted hate crimes suddenly did not want to talk about it in terms of hate crime. They didn't want to investigate it in terms of hate crime. In fact, yesterday, Merrick Garland dodged, the Attorney General of the United States, ducked and dodged in front of Congress like he was a running back for the Tiger football team in terms of not to talk about it. And as it being a hate crime or being investigated as a hate crime. So therefore, those people have suddenly switched their positions because the shooter was the wrong narrative. The shooter being transsexual, the shooter being a different pronoun, so on and so forth. Completely changed their way of looking at it. On the other hand, and in fairness, what also happened is that the conservatives in the country who had opposed hate crime law and had railed against hate crime law, suddenly we're talking about hate crimes. Josh Hawley, the United States Senator from Missouri, was just wailing away about this is a hate crime. They need to investigate this as a hate crime. Before, just like the left wing, before Hawley didn't want to talk about hate crimes, just like the left wing is doing now. So consequently, what it tells you is that it is suddenly seen all in a very political way, in a very partisan way, in a very real way. I've taken the position on this show, and I've taken it now on the radio show that we had prior to this, so for about 8 years now. I've taken the position that hate crime law is really unnecessary. That what is at issue is what the substantive criminal law says. This was a homicide with an intent to kill, clearly. The fact that the woman did not go to a more secure school shows you that she had an intent to go to an easy target to kill people for her purpose, whatever deranged purpose that was. But that's what happened. But so this is viewed in a totally political way, and this is where I have a problem. Is that principles are far more important than the politics of situations like this. This was a terrible crime, but in terms of homicides, in terms of fundamental rights, in terms of those kinds of things in America, those principles that I talked about in the first segment of this show that seem to be on the decline drastically, those principles are far more important to the consensus of our nation. Speech, assembly, petition Congress, Second Amendment, due process, those things make America important. We'll be right back, and I'll continue on this diatribe. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bobby Yarborough with Manda Fine Meats. Here at Manda, we know what the folks of South Louisiana love. They love great flavored smoked sausage, delicious deli meats, and specialty items like boudin and andouille sausage. Manda Fine Meats has been providing these products since 1947. We produce them right here in Baton Rouge, so you know you're always getting the freshest product at your local grocery store. Manda Fine Meats. Taste the fresh local flavor in everything we make. Make it Manda every time.
Bolello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent. Depend on us for service, for selection, for price. Get huge Whirlpool savings. Shop now and save on Whirlpool appliances throughout the store. Plus, experience our price match guarantee and ask about special financing. You can depend on the know-how of people who live appliances every day. Bolello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent with nationwide buying power.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-778-4345. 800-778-4345.
The season of inspiration is the perfect time to discover the enhanced Mazda CX-5, named a 2022 IIHS Safety Pick Plus Award winner, its highest safety award honor. Choose from over 45 CX-5s available at Baton Rouge's Mazda dealer, Team Mazda on Airline.
Hi gang, Clarence Buggs here, inviting you to come by Old School Barbecue, 10655 Coursey Boulevard, where we tape the show live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 11 o'clock. Come by and feast on news, sports, current events, love of God and country, and lots of common sense, along with some of the best barbecue anywhere on the planet. 10655 Coursey Boulevard, Old School Barbecue, home of the Clarence Buggs Show.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreystoneCountryClub.com.
Welcome back to Fletch Nation. We're at Old School Barbecue on Coursey Boulevard in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where we do our show. And my sidekick, Kevin, is ill today, so I'm on my own, which kind of feels good so far, but that's just me. So we're talking about Nashville, and we're talking about what happened up there, the tragedy of that transfer. And I'm not going to dwell on a lot of the parts of it, but I do think that it's important to see, and this is the theme of the show today, is to see how partisanship affects people's vision of events, and to recognize that this partisanship has grown so wide, and the division is so great, that it threatens our country with a permanent division. And to requote Lincoln for the third time now, A house divided against itself cannot stand. And that means, and I also, last segment, quoted, or gave you a quote, by the president of El Salvador that basically says that this powerful of a nation could not fall unless it was from within, and it's fallen so quickly that it's shocking to the world. And it is shocking to the world. It explains a lot of things that are happening in the world. I want to make a couple of more observations about this partisan divide and the optics and the interpretation of events. We have heard now since January of 2001 about J6, January 6th, and this great insurrection that took place up there. Then we find out, we see video, particular video, but yet video, sufficient video, that this J6 thing was perhaps not what people it was made out to be by the national media and by the left, telling people that it was an insurrection, a violent insurrection. Clearly there was some violence. But now a new poll came out from Newsweek in the last week that said 69% of Americans believe January 6th was less violent than reported by the news media. Just 26% believed it was more violent. The point here is that depending on where you stand in terms of, well, I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican or I'm an independent, frames the violence or the lack of violence there is about an event, and it gives you the interpretation of it, which destroys consensus in the country. So let's return to Nashville. There are those that supported hate crime, the hate crime legislation, now are not refusing to talk about hate crime as it relates to Nashville. And those that oppose hate crime legislation, that's all they want to talk about now. In short, taking an event, a dramatic, terrible event, and turning it into political spin in order to make political points. And that simply continues a division in the country. The fact is that nobody, it seems, wants to deal with the reality or the truth of the situation. Here's a couple of other points about Nashville. People do not wish to discuss on the left who this person was that did the killing, any more than people on the right don't like to talk about who did the killing when it's not when it's a white male or whatever the case may be. But this was a transsexual who was undergoing treatment and so on and so forth to become, I think, becoming a male. I don't quite understand all of it. But the fact was, or the question becomes, was that a mental illness? Is that a mental illness? Should she have been able to purchase guns legally, which she was, or should she not? And is there a problem with the whole mental illness thing in this country? And there's clearly an increasing amount of mental illness in America from all sorts of reasons. But is that a political question, or is the question, how do we contend with this? There's the folks that say, well, the only way to contend with it is to do away with every gun in America. And then there are those that say that's crazy. But the facts, it seems to me that it gets down to this, is that blaming this on a gun is no more than blaming bad handwriting on a pencil. It's an instrument. This was a person that did it, just like it is in every case. It is the person that did it. And if they're motivated to do it for reasons that revolve around hate, I don't care. The question is, did somebody die, and did they kill the shooter? That's all that matters. That's all I care about. And if they didn't kill the shooter, then prosecute the shooter and do what you need to do with somebody who takes innocent human life. And we have disagreements over that, but I can tell you, in these heinous kind of crimes, I don't have much disagreement with myself about it. I find perfectly compatible with the notion that somebody ought to get the death penalty for crazy stuff like this. But there again, other people say, no, they're human beings, and I get that. And they shouldn't be put to death because it gives them a chance to repent and to do things differently as they go. And I get the argument. I just don't accept the argument. So the partisanship creates these different worldviews, and what gets undermined are fundamental principles that Americans live by, or at least hold dear or have held dear in the past. And some of those principles that get undermined are, for example, freedom of speech. Freedom of speech gets undermined because if you're not on the narrative, you get canceled. You get run out of town, as they say. And I recognize that. But we take, for example, and I'll talk about it when we come back, what happened this week with a reporter that reported on the Twitter files, had gone into the Twitter files for Elon Musk to report the connection and coordination between the intelligence community, the military, and big tech, social media, that prohibited stories from coming out, that squashed stories, that did all kinds of things in the last presidential election. And we'll come right back and we'll start to talk about some of the values being undermined. Stick with us.
Got termites? Get Premier Pest. PremierPestServices.com.
Hi, I'm Katie, Operation Manager here at Old School Barbecue. We're excited about all of the changes here at Old School, and we'd like to invite everyone to come out and enjoy some delicious barbecue at Old School prices. We feature brisket, chicken, ribs, sausage, and the Boss Hog pulled pork sandwich voted best deal in town. We also have live music Friday and Saturday from 7 to 10 p.m. 10655 Coursey Boulevard. We can't wait to see you.
Hello guys, it's Debbie. It's time. I've got a brand new location. 10510 Airline Highway, Baton Rouge, next to After 5 Tuxedos. We have the perfect spot to get all your wedding and formal wear needs. Come see our one-of-a-kind name brand and get great prices. With 30 years experience, the best customer service anywhere. It's Debbie's Bridal, Airline Highway, Baton Rouge. See you soon.
Hi, I am Dr. Farrell Frugier Jr., and I am a general dentist at Frugier Family Dentistry. I was born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I went to Catholic High School, LSU, and LSU School of Dentistry in New Orleans, where I received my DDS degree in 1986. I always have and will continue to be committed to continuing my education, to invest in technology which makes the diagnosis and delivery of dentistry more thorough, more comfortable, and more aesthetically pleasing. In our practice, we are here to serve the patients. We want to improve their quality of life and to develop relationships with our patients. In dentistry, we have a chance to impact lives on a daily basis, not just by doing dentistry, but by getting to know them and being a part of their life. We also believe in giving back to our community. So every year, we give back to the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank, Toys for Tots, and Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center. Please stop by and visit our office. We would love to take care of you and your family.
Hey everybody, I'm Kevin Gallagher. This is Roy Fletcher. We hope you'll join us for Fletch Nation, especially if you like talking politics.
Hey, come and join us. We'll give you the information and then we'll give you the context. And by the way, We'll give you fun, too.
Lots of fun. We hit the local races, the state. We even look at what's going on all across America. And by the way, this space is available. If you'd like to talk about advertising, send your emails to Roy Fletcher at royfletcher.com and join us every week here on the Pelican for Fletch Nation.
The biggest sale of the year is happening right now during Happy Honda Days at Team Honda. For a limited time, make no payments for 90 days on every new Honda. That's right, you choose and make no payments for 90 days at Louisiana's #1 Honda dealer, Team Honda on Segan Lane.
Caught spiders? Premier Pest Services.
So we've been talking about, the theme today is partisanship and the undermining of the consensus in America. And we've talked about the partisan nature of the way that the tragedy in Nashville was viewed. The president himself went out right after the event and talked about the person used a AK-47, which was a lie. No AK-47 was used. That's an automatic weapon, and it was not used. He said that other things about machine guns and so on and so, and none of that was used. It was AR-15, which means Amorite 15, which is a lightweight weapon that is used in hunting primarily and target practice and that sort of thing. So there was a lot of that discussion happening, and then the left took the position of doing away with all guns. The right took the position where you might want to be a little careful here, and the question of mental illness as it related to all of this. Do we glorify mental illness in this country now and make it a lifestyle, or do we not? All of those questions and all those issues we're faced with, but in the context of one underlying factor, and that is partisanship, which shapes and forms a person's worldview, which will tell a person how to view events instead of trying to seek the truth with respect to the events. And I said that this partisanship is undermining basic principles in the country. The partisanship I'm talking about was found in the Wall Street Journal poll, as well as the evidence of the divide that is occurring in the country. The decline on basic values, as well as the division between Republicans and Democrats. And the point is that this partisanship is undermining fundamental American traditional values, and there's no better place to go than the Bill of Rights for those values. It seems to me they were articulated at the beginning of this country. They're still there. They still exist. The question is, what is the consensus around those? Let's take, for example, now what has happened in the last few days. There's this reporter, Matt Taibbi, I believe is how you say his name. That did a report for Elon Musk on Twitter files and the coordination between the intelligence community, the military, and big tech in order to control the flow of news in 2020, and particularly as it related to Hunter Biden, laptops, so on and so forth, and the clear suppression of news and the clear suppression of speech. Taibbi had to appear before Congress, I think, about 2 weeks ago, and gave maybe 10 days ago, gave testimony. And while he was giving testimony, it's suddenly a knock on his home door, and an IRS agent suddenly appeared while he is giving testimony. The intimidation of that, the message of that, the symbolism of that was so clear that it was unbelievable. You are not supposed to report these kinds of things without having consequences for them. And the what the IRS agent came for was a very minor matter, but the message got sent to this reporter, which in other times that would almost be unheard of in this country. But the intimidation factor was clear, and it was done clearly, purposefully. That's your speech rights. That's what happens in a country where speech rights suddenly. Also, after Elon Musk published these, what he called the Twitter files, or what was called the Twitter files, the FCC suddenly demanded of Elon Musk that he hand over all names of all reporters who were engaged in this reporting. In short, the FCC was telling Elon Musk, I believe it was the FCC, Federal Communications, was telling Elon Musk, we don't like what you reported, and therefore we want to talk to you about everything. And they have apparently launched some sort of frivolous investigation into Musk as it relates to these things. Crazy. A new bill. One of the cries of everybody was over TikTok. A new bill has been introduced by Republicans and Democrats alike to get rid of TikTok in the United States. The reason for it is TikTok is a Chinese company. They say that what is being done is they're getting all kind of personal information about people and storing it. The Chinese communists are, and it basically, without saying it, is a spy operation. I'll say it for them. Well, there was a bill then, I said, that was written by Democrats and Republicans alike to do away with. The problem that's suddenly been found out is that the Congress itself has taken this opportunity in an effort to get rid of TikTok to even more suppress the potential for speech. Any communications between an American citizen and a citizen of an adversary, the adversary being defined by the Department of Commerce to tell us who the adversary is basically made some sort of criminal offense in this bill, and there are penalties in the bill of 20 years imprisonment in some cases. So the point being is that, and this is all directed at the ability of people to speak and to communicate and do the things that people normally do. And it is very, very troubling. And there is an article that I would suggest to everybody read. It's on what is called Tablet. It's by Jacob Siegel. It's on a website called Tablet, which is sort of I don't want to say it this way, but I will anyway, so you'll know what I mean. It's sort of this intellectual, thought-provoking website that does interesting articles. And with this article is a guide to understanding the hoax of the century. And what it is about is 13 ways of looking at disinformation, what they call disinformation, and what is happening as it relates to this sudden fight in the United States against information, where it came from, this fight came from, why it exists, and what is the danger of this fight. And when we come back, I'll get into that article a little bit because it's worth hearing. We'll be right back. What happened? It did? Do I have time? Okay. Well, they tell me that the computer messed up, and so I took us off before I should have, and it get in between times that I'm doing this, I try to read as much as I can, as quickly as I can, and I want to find this article, which I had a moment ago, that I want to tell you about. But what it basically does is it outlines that happened 8 years ago, 10 years ago, that there became this manifest desire or belief, much like the McCarthy era in the 1950s, that the Soviet Union and the Russians were attempting to undermine and impact our system through disinformation, propaganda, clearly, given to the American public, and the use of technology to do this. As if we don't do it to Russia, and all countries do it. Let's just face that. And it has become targeted as it relates to China now because of TikTok, of which I explained a moment ago. But the effect is that back 2014 or so, there was a law passed that some people have called, or Jacob Siegel calls, this act is called the Patriot Act on steroids. And what it does was attempting to find out about where disinformation was coming from and to exclude, quote, disinformation from the public sphere. In other words, they were deciding what information was disinformation, what information they wanted to believe was untrue or detrimental to the American system. And unlike McCarthy, they didn't have a list of 57 communists or 220 communists, whatever McCarthy claimed, in the State Department. What they had was a list, I guess, of IPO addresses that people were spreading disinformation from. Well, there was a group that was formed, and I can't find my article right now, so I can't tell you exactly the name of the group, and I will in a moment. Well, okay. Now I'm going to take a break. So we'll be right back, and then, sorry for the confusion, but we'll be right back and tell you about this article.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreystoneCountryClub.com.
Sometimes life is wonderful, and sometimes it's not. Cherish the good, but always be prepared for life's challenges. At Private Healthcare, we provide the peace of mind you deserve. With Private Healthcare, you'll get the coverage you want and healthcare you need. If your employer doesn't supply healthcare coverage and you don't qualify for Medicare or Medicaid, you need to give us a call right now. Private Healthcare is private health insurance for ages 65 and under with medical, dental, vision, and even prescription coverage. When life comes at you unexpectedly, you need to be ready. And health insurance is your financial safety net. Health insurance has never been so easy and affordable. If you're looking for health coverage at the best price and your annual household income is $35,000 or more, call the number on the screen now and speak with a live healthcare consultant. Don't wait. Get the coverage you need now.
Every great story starts with the rush of thrilling gaming action. Handcrafted flavors, eager to please. Getaways for some well-deserved me time. And rewards worth bragging about. If it's a story worth telling, it starts at La Berge Baton Rouge. What's your story?
Tremonti's has meat. Tremonti's has seafood. Tremonti's has much more. Tailgating and home gating platters. Huge wine and liquor selection. Beer and all the spices you need. Chairman Reserve and Wagyu meats. Ribeye rolls, shrimp rolls, kebabs. 20 flavors of sausage for the grill. Daily lunch specials and game processing. On-site catering also available. Good meat ain't cheap and cheap meat ain't good. Visit Tremonti's.com.
You can't smell it, but you can almost taste it. And whether it's for a family get-together or a game day feast, having Manda in the mix always sounds good. For 3 generations, their quality meats and original seasonings have made Manda a Louisiana legend and made their family sausage Louisiana's family sausage. Manda Fine Meats. The flavor says it all.
Treads & Care Tire Company announces its new location on Hooper Road in Central. Locally owned for 50 years, Treads & Care is known for quality automotive repair with top-notch customer service. Treads & Care offers the convenience of shuttle service and pickup and delivery of your vehicle. You can also enjoy the comfortable customer area, complete with workstations, high-speed internet, and a complimentary coffee bar.
I'd like to invite you to come out and see us at our new location in Central.
Treads & Care, the tires you need and the service you want.
Roy Fletcher's Fletch Nation, coming from old school barbecue, 10655 Carsey Boulevard in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. You want some good barbecue? Come and get it. We're talking about an article that's in Tablet Magazine, which is a website, called A Guide to Understanding the Hoax of the Century. And the hoax is the notion of disinformation and the effort to control it. So we were telling you about 2014, the passage of a law. Then there were several, one an NGO, an outside organization, that began to get all in a tizzy about these Russian bots and so on and so forth that were controlling the American dialogue and saying all this nasty stuff, and they started reporting and demanding something be done to Twitter and to Facebook and to Twitter. We know for a fact, and I think it was called Hamilton 68, something like that. And then there was a governmental organization that had been set up under this law, this new law, that did exactly that sort of thing. And so the pressure came on Twitter, and the Twitter people realized that the Twitter people basically said, no, these people are American citizens and they're just saying whatever they want to say. They're not Russian. They're not Russian bots. And so, but Twitter gave in. There's too much pressure on Twitter. Twitter gave in to the pressure from the government. And this is what happened as they started into 2016, and we had the whole dossier and the Russian. But there was this conflation. There was this organization of this outside group, this governmental entity, and the power of big tech to start to attempt to control all kinds of things, including the suppression of speech and including the suppression of news stories. The author writes, by conflating the anti-establishment politics of domestic populists, in other words, domestic political populists, anti-establishment, with acts of war by foreign enemies, meaning the Russians, it justified turning weapons of war against American citizens, meaning the control of information, the suppression of speech. It turned the public arenas where social and political life takes place into surveillance traps and targets for catching American citizens. And it goes on. What we are seeing now in the revelations exposing the inner workings of the state corporate censorship regime is only the end of the beginning. The United States is still in the earliest stages of mass mobilization that aims to harness every sector of society, under singular technocratic rule. The mobilization, which began as a response to the supposedly urgent menace of Russian interference, now evolves into a regime of total information control that has arrogated to itself the mission of eradicating abstract dangers such as error, injustice, and harm, a goal worthy only of leaders who believe themselves to be infallible or comic book supervillains. This is the thesis of this article. It is an 8-part series that this young man Siegel has written. It is incisive. It is profoundly filled with facts and information that it views things in perspective. It puts it in context rather than just singular day-to-day events and what happened here and what happened there and so on and so forth. It puts things in context. And whether you agree with the article or not, the basic thesis of the article, which the conflation of domestic populists, anti-establishment populists, with the Russian threat, and we can see this right now in the debate over the Ukraine situation. We can see this where people were getting, before Musk bought Twitter, were getting knocked off for Twitter for saying that this war was, they didn't agree with the war in the Ukraine. We had no interest there. Those kinds of things are what we're talking about. And we can see that conflation there. Now, the other part of it, which is the targeting, using this as a ruse, as a pretext for targeting American citizen speech, is only, as he says, it's only the end of the beginning. And we're going to see far more, as he called it, mass mobilization. Mass mobilization meaning that the desire to control content for justice and equity and harm and so on and so injustice is going to overcome the American public. And this gives you an idea of why wokeism, it is a tool. This whole thing is a tool that gives the chance for wokeism to survive rather than debate, honest debate, the marketplace of ideas, people arguing about things that matter, people debating about things that matter, people giving their opinions, whether you like them or not, whether you agree with them or not, about things that matter. That is what this is attempting to work toward. Now, I don't know that I believe everything of this. I don't know I believe half of it, but I think it's a hell of a thesis that the American public and my viewing audience needs to go read this article in Tablet, article by Jacob Siegler called 13 Ways to Look at Disinformation. I think it's highly instructive. We'll be back next week and leave you with more tips about life. Thanks.
Listening to Fletch Nation with Roy Fletcher and Kevin Gallagher. Remember, if you heard something that ticked you off, upset your sensibilities, or threatened your precious safe space,
the opinions expressed by the hosts and guests are purely their own and do not reflect those of this radio station or its advertisers.
So if you're calling a lawyer, or planning a boycott, or a cancel campaign, forget about it and join us next week for more Fletch Nation.